Have
Thank
one,
you.
one edit to the minutes.
Okay.
To change the novel neighbor to noble neighbor, because it was their nonprofit, not
Okay,
that.
Okay.
where is that at?
Under the bullet,
Bullets.
the middle bullet point, fourth from the bottom,
Uh-huh,
just change the novel neighbor will provide an activity. It was technically the noble neighbor.
right.
Okay.
Um, Okay, so we need approval of the minutes.
That change. I motion to
Approve the minutes.
approve the minutes with the change.
Okay. Second,
Second.
okay,
Wasn't here, but-
minutes approved. And then we're just doing a follow-up. Sorry. A follow-up of the lifetime achievement in the arts.
I think it went well. I just put
I
that
think
on there,
it-
just, yeah.
I think I think we would have had more, probably more people, but the weather, it got cold and rainy. And I think that made a
Yeah.
difference. I think it went well in spite of it. But my guess is we'd have had more people meandering around that
Yeah.
area and but it was good, and it was good that Bob Castley, some of his family was there,
Yeah,
and
that was
which was great, and the son accepted the little plaque. That was great. So I was sort of surprised, but we didn't know if they would even come.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really,
Yeah, I kind of Googled the history of the family and went, oh.
yeah, well, I can understand that, like there was obviously, and he was an artist person, so,
Artist.
he might not be.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't present all the time. But that part seemed good. They seemed very
Mhm.
nice and like appreciative.
I stayed and talked for a while,
Yeah.
which was great
Oh, really?
to people, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was great, just how many people that would, like, I told, like, just in casual when they came by, that he had done the apples and people didn't know. So it was kind of a nice PR that.
Yeah, that
there
was
is,
good.
Castle.
Do we have signage around the apple?
We don't.
I thought of that too.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. I wondered, it'd be nice if we had something over there, like a little plaque
That
about
could be like phase 2 of the signage after the.
I think for a lot of people, it's a given that they
Yeah.
know that who did the apples and everything.
I remember when I learned, my kids were hanging out at them, and I remember when I learned it. And I didn't learn it through signage
Yeah.
because it's not out
Yeah,
there.
if we had,
Yeah.
we had some sort of permanent plaque somewhere, at our own, maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
or a small one on one of the apples to say.
But yeah,
who
for a
did
lot of
this.
old people like me who just grew up when the apples were there, then it's just like.
It would be
kind of a
really
thing that
nice.
you just know, and you're like, you wouldn't even think, why would you need signage, but by
mean,
now.
I don't
Well,
know
there could
what,
be something just like for the arts fund, like if we try to raise money for that, like I think signage falls into that kind of thing, that we've got the sculpture garden signs and those are coming, but like what we still have.
I think
You know,
that
the
would,
wall that Marilyn did, and there's the earth rabbit and some of the other things that are just kind of around Webster Groves, but not in one concentrated area, maybe getting matching signage for all of that could be good.
yeah,
That'd be a great
I think,
idea.
yeah, I think that would be good for then people when they want to go, what are these apples, or even people visiting, that they would
Yeah,
see that.
Yeah.
Were they just recently repaired? They were, right?
they're painted every so often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that reminds me, the guy from the city museum who was there.
Yes, Rick, Erwin, yeah.
Yes, he mentioned to me that in the future, when we need them painted, he seems willing to have his people do it.
Okay.
Yes.
And
So
they
that's-
know how to do it.
Yeah, because I've got like a file this fat in my file cabinet with like little paint chips, and it's like, this is the correct red, and like all sorts of
I'm
different.
glad they mentioned that
Yeah.
because they have a whole crew and they're a
Yes.
for-profit institution with laborers that know how to do that.
Yes, and he just mentioned it as an aside, and I said, really? He said, oh, yeah. We do this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Because I'm sure they take care of the turtles, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
like any
yeah.
repairs that were required for Turtle Park, I'm sure they.
I just think of everything around the city museum that,
Mhm.
there's nothing that's not colorful and brilliant and probably needs to be
We might want to follow up and ask them if they'd be willing to put in signage. And they might be willing to do it.
Ah.
That like, I don't even know what that would look
Well,
like.
I would think, yeah, and I think it's a thing that they do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a museum.
They probably are, what I'm saying is they probably already have the material.
Right.
It probably wouldn't be that difficult. I mean, you could go through graphics and yada, yada,
Yeah.
yada, but you could also.
No,
just
I actually
mention
think
that.
that's their gig.
I think it is, you know, is that like we
I think
have
that's
these.
brilliant, yeah.
It is a follow-up, you could say, so great to have you at this event. Thank you for mentioning about the Apple chairs. Would you be willing? We're thinking about signage because there's no awareness about that, like.
Yeah,
you have
there
something
should
that's
be. There should be.
Yeah.
pre-existing.
Good, and even the, God, I'm so bad with the names, but the. Somersault guy, like, what is
Mhm.
that? Backflip, somersault guy, backflip.
Ah,
Glad I don't name artwork.
backflip.
But even the person who did backflip, you know, I don't know his name, is a famous artist, and it was Dale Curtis that told me, they're like, he also designed a lot of the things in Clockwork Orange movie, like at the bar in the middle, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool little bit of history for. But I'm like,
So-
people don't know who did them and what the history of the person is and what other things they've done.
Do we have text already pre-existing for the Apple chairs that talks about, like, do we know when they were made? Do
We
know the
know when
story?
they were, we don't
why
have
they
like
were
the
given?
story, like
I
on
think
our
my-
website, we have like just a little bit of information, they're just like,
Blows
these are
my
the apples,
mind that
it's
we don't
not,
have
yeah.
it. This is this is an opportunity to showcase something that you talked about, we always had. But it's just showcasing something that
Yeah.
we already have and then integrating the story into it.
So we're talking about a plaque for the apples and there's still others, correct?
Mhm.
We still have,
Backflip and then Earth Rabbit and then the other piece of artwork that's by Memorial Park and then. I can't remember the name, but it's like a dedication to jazz, it's the same, it's at Cafe.
oh, yes,
Bottle.
yes.
Yeah,
I know where that is, yes.
yeah,
Okay, so
which that one would probably have
We've
to
got
have
about-
permission with Webster U to put something there, but I think there's
there's.
maybe like six.
I was just
more
gonna say
pieces.
six more pieces, but the sculpture garden, that's already in.
That's in works, yeah,
In works.
that's in works.
So
Yeah.
6 more.
Yeah, and at the art museum, they have they know how to do outdoor signage because they have up above
Yeah,
on the top.
City Museum, yeah,
So we were going, if it really rained, we were gonna have it in the
Webster Arts, yeah,
Art Webster Arts. I was thinking also, I could contact Webster Arts and ask them if maybe they want to do a Castle the exhibit. I mean, I was just, they could just,
yeah.
or contact the castle,
Be
the city
interesting.
museum and say, just think about, they could put together an idea, a concept or something
Mhm.
like that. Because,
Yeah, I'm not sure what they've got planned for, you know,
well, I'm just
Okay,
saying
yeah.
it would be an idea for them to. It's like part of our history and it's something that they could do, and
yeah,
I think it would be an honor to get word out about the museum in St. Louis.
So back to the plaques that we still need. So should we find out like what that would be? Do we?
I can do that,
look at costs?
I've got the
I
full
thought-
list of our artwork, and so I can take what's already in the
We
works.
now have,
and then
you you have it
And
cemented,
send that
who's
to
doing the
Graphic and be like,
signage.
how many would it be for
How
this?
much would
Yeah.
it be? And then we could find out who would install it. Or-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our public works department is usually able to do the installation for us, so that helps save on
So that would be good.
money.
It would be good if we could get that rolling, so that would could get it
Yeah, that would be nice.
the 6, and then that would mean pretty much we would have those 6 plus the sculpture.
Are we having
garden
the
done.
signs made now? Or-
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, we're just going back and forth a little bit. I need to reach out to them again, and follow up with the QR code thing. 'cause they're-
And then that leads us to, so this, the plaques, and that leads us all to banners.
Okay, so for the banners, I have a new thing to bring up, so I'm gonna share my screen.
Before we move, about the achievement in the arts, I drafted a quick little thank you note that
Okay.
I'd like everybody to sign. It'll
Cool.
say, just to the noble neighbors, since they were there volunteering their time. Thank you for joining the Webster Arts the Webster Groves Arts Commission for Annual Lifetime Achievement in the Arts Award honoring Bob Cassilly. The Apple bookmark craft was such a fun feature for the event that the trick-or-treaters really enjoyed. We appreciate your support for this event and all that you do for the Webster Groves community. And then we
Great.
can all sign it.
Wonderful.
Okay, perfect.
I like
Okay.
Great,
You wanna write all my thank you notes now too?
yeah. That was great.
It's
Good.
drilled into me.
Yeah,
Ah.
no.
So this company, CGI, they approached, Eric Peterson, for the business districts about, Janice, can you see the screen with the CGI up there?
Yes, now I do,
Okay.
yes.
And so it's CGI Digital is the name of the company. And so he and I sat on a talk with them. And so this is what they do for cities. They do banners. And so
Yeah.
they work with National League
Cool.
of Cities and National Civic League and
Wow.
and so they do all of the sales for things. And I'll show you some examples of what they've done.
Yeah.
And then they pursue the sponsors. So you can kind of see how some of these
Yeah,
cities have done it where they're like, shop, dine, live, and they've got different companies that are down there. So we can have it say anything, like there can be banners that say Old Orchard, there could be banners that say Old Webster, there's banners that could say City of the Arts, and then they would approach these sponsors and get them in the sponsor area.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's one of those things we're just in early talks, but this might be a really easy way to update not just the city, the arts banners, but all of the banners, and then get more what makes Webster Grove special into
Right.
the banners. That like, so instead of just saying Old Webster, it would be like Old Webster, Olive and Oak, Old Webster Straubs, it would have the different companies that are in there to kind of get more attention, but then there would also be the nice City of the Arts banners. So I was happy when I heard from them because it was like, and as you can see, the top design, like it could pretty much look like anything that you want it to and have as many colors or
yeah.
A huge
words.
photograph or.
Yeah, as you want. So, and this is what's nice is will we, the partnering entity would be City of Webster Groves ever have to pay? Absolutely not, which is the great, and then the city would have to install them, but we do that anyway for, the Public Works does that, and so, I mean, the only thing is, of course, like it just says, can you do seasonal or holiday ban, like, which we weren't really planning on doing that. Any kind of like Christmas and, but. That would be it. The only thing that it might affect is, and we're still in early talks, is exactly how they split up the banners. And if it's one of those things where. Like right now, I think we have 24 in the one area and 12 in the other. And would we keep those numbers or would it just kind of be?
One of the thing about the banners that we have to think about is there's the different neighborhoods or
Mhm.
whatever you're doing sponsors. So of course, that can change.
Mhm.
But it would be good if the heading on the banner would be the same throughout all the streets, and then it would be. Because otherwise, I guess I'm just thinking then it's more continuity than this is Old Orchard, this
Mhm.
is something else. That it would just be something that would be some kind of logo on the very top about just Webster Groves.
Yeah. And I think
And-
that would be the only, because I know right now it's like we have the 24 in the one area and the 12 in the other that are arts.
And then
Old
there,
Orchard and what they have that kind of same.
right,
thing,
so that would be underneath that, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. I was just thinking then it would bring it more together, that all the banners say at the top,
Right.
Webster Groves, whatever you want to say, City of the Arts, and then underneath it, it could be Old Orchard, it could be
Yeah.
whatever you wanted. Rather than separate, I guess is what I was thinking.
Yeah, because right now there are.
That, because it can be,
Yeah.
that way when people come in, it's all, whatever that logo on the top would be the same
Mhm.
throughout the whole.
Well, that was gonna be my question. Who's maintaining that consistency and brand consistency now? You? In
Yeah,
terms of all of the banners.
Yeah,
across the city,
Right, and so that, this
Yeah.
would tie that in, so
Yeah.
it would be the same as far as the heading, and then underneath would be
it seems like a vendor like this, especially if you approve of it, that
Yes,
this would
and that's
be
what we
a
would-
more turnkey solution to allow you to have that.
I
brand
agree.
Consistency.
I think it would.
And
Yeah.
then they're also allowing you to do this, they're being the solicitor too for
Mhm.
you, so.
That's
Which
pretty-
that I think is ideal, because I don't think, you know, that's the hard thing.
There's so much groundwork, yeah, to
Yes.
keep up with people.
And I think
Yes.
it's the fact that the business districts won't pay for banners anymore is one way to get them to say, to agree to.
Yeah,
A more uniform, holistic branding in addition to whatever they want to put on there.
Right, I think,
The business districts won't pay for the banners.
They do now. So the
Oh.
Old Orchard business districts are paid out of business district funds, for
Ah.
example. But this takes the cost, they can use it for something else, which is an incentive for them to go along with the Webster Groves part of that.
yeah.
exactly.
And if they wanted to have their restaurant or store or something like that listed as a sponsor at the bottom, well, that's, I'm
They could
sure.
still do that.
Yeah, they could
but
still do
under
that.
that heading of,
Yeah,
this
Yeah.
is Webster Groves.
well, you can see like, the Belleville.
Main Street,
Belleville,
and then
yeah.
underneath, yes.
Or
Yeah.
Viewville, I can't see very well,
Beeville,
so,
yeah,
Hmm.
but
Right.
I understand exactly what you're saying and it makes perfect sense.
yeah.
I think it
And
would
like
be
even
good.
this is kind of a, just you could tell it's, that one runs through the whole city, Reynoldsburg, Ohio, the city of respect. And then they've got, you know, it's a nice uniform.
Or the
look
welcome to
everything.
Village of Broadview, welcome
Yeah.
to, well, we wouldn't have to say welcome, but Webster Groves.
Yeah,
And in the
Yeah.
sponsor area, is it consistent type or what happens in that sponsor area?
so let me see if I can see one that's got the sponsor area.
That's a good question, Janice.
filled
Yeah, it seems
in.
like it would, wouldn't
So you
we
can
want it to be consistent?
Yeah, so you can see
The
it
same?
here, and there's a certain level of
That's cool.
consistency, where you can see in this one,
Yes,
Mhm.
the different
Seems like-
restaurants and organizations that are kind of listed in there. Like, I don't love how it's like arts, and then it's like Hilton, I don't know that Hilton represents the arts.
right, no.
Super great, but maybe in that town it does, but yeah, I think like play with the YMCA is kind of a perfect, you know, example of how you
Yeah.
can find the businesses that kind of.
I mean, I'd advocate for less is more. These banners are small. so
Yes.
Try to jamming in a lot of
Exactly.
visual and
Yeah.
type into it is.
Yeah, we can't do too much
Yeah,
on,
it's
in the
too-
banner, it'd be
Yeah.
like, Crazy.
It's also a question of like who's seeing it. I mean, they're both pedestrian and vehicle banners, probably
Yeah.
more so pedestrian, because you're driving through the street, you don't see them as easily.
Yeah, cause like some of them, like I look at like this one, I'm like, I don't even know what that says,
Too.
whereas something like you can clearly see that that says, so I
Yeah.
think that that would be something they
yeah,
have
not
to work
too,
with the
can't have
sponsors
too
on.
busy,
Yeah, like
definitely.
just Straub's as opposed to, you know, lots of small, but I think this.
Yeah.
When we sat in on it, it sounded great, and it's not like a
Write your
done
name
deal
there,
yet, it's,
Sign it.
Well, we have to look at what
yeah,
is the budget and then,
yeah, what is the
How do we
business
pay?
district that, yeah, well, and there's it, you know. And that's what I have to find out is how this exactly works, but I think it's definitely the sponsors pay, which is nice.
And how much do the sponsors pay? Do we have any idea?
I don't know. I think that might be something where we would have to work with them on those prices, because I think it would have to represent and be realistic for the area, you know, where something like. You know, Trenton, New Jersey, they might have like the
The
Hilton,
center of New York City is
Yeah.
not the same.
they'll have some more money than we would expect our local businesses,
yeah,
because
yeah.
they are. Small businesses, so it's not like they've got huge budgets where we would ask them. to
Yes,
pay.
but if this banner is up for, I don't know how many years
Yeah.
or whatever, like the lifetime of the banner or whatever, I mean. $300, I understand
Yeah.
that that's a big amount, but if it's up for 10 years, $300.
Yeah,
then
is
it's good.
not
And they
that much.
change out, I think it's like every 2 year, I have to see what, there is a certain amount of time, I think they had said like 2 to 3 years, something like that, where they switched them out, and, but even I
It's in
think,
the middle. Your full set of banners is replaced with new banners.
Every-
like
Every
with
12
fresh
months.
Designs every 12 months.
you know, I think like 200, 300, you know, like dollars would be a realistic, but that would be something that we could talk with them about when we have those initial meetings.
Mhm.
But the idea of doing it every year is nice, cause it's like they do get faded and they do
Yeah.
get. We got a call once and there was a gentleman who was upset because there was a ripped banner. On on Rock Hill, and he's like, it looks terrible, can you take it down? And I was like, well, we'll take down the ripped one, no problem. And he's like, can you take down all the other ones, because they're faded and they look bad? I was like, no, I don't have anything to replace them with, like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Now, would we also, in addition to going to businesses, would we also go to the arts organizations so that if they wanted they
Yes,
wanted the promotion, they could do that?
I believe that they will approach any list of businesses and organizations that we send their way.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and I think that could even be, you know, like ways to get like Naric's up there in Webster, and some of the, you know, just.
Mhm.
Holy Redeemer might want to be in a banner, you just never know at the end of the day, which
Mhm.
organizations want to be represented, so if somebody wants to pay for that, I don't think we would tell them no.
And then I assume we would work with, did you say Public Works would clear that? Or
Yes.
Oh, it says installation and maintenance service.
They said they, and like on the other page, it says if the partner organization is not able to install.
Ah,
them,
gotcha,
we're happy to
okay.
do it, but I
But
think
that-
with our,
but so then we would have some say in where each of these things went, right?
Yes.
Redeemer has one out front, you just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be good too.
yeah.
Obviously, the geography matters.
Yeah, so it was a little webinar that this company did for National League of Cities, and so a bunch of other cities were also on it, so we weren't able to get into kind of the nitty gritty specifics of Webster Groves.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll jump in the mail and so Eric and I, for a follow-up, are gonna do that and have more of a more detailed meeting with them where we can ask the questions of how will you price this? Will we have say in the pricing? Will people be able to renew like at the end of the year, or is it just a slate white plane every 12 months? So we can get those questions answered and have more information at the next meeting. But it seemed when I sat there, I was like, oh my God, this is everything that we're kind of talking about, but somebody else is willing to do it for us, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and I already have the list of the arts organizations that I made for us that I can easily share with them.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
I think it'll be. Oh,
So,
Can you send us all a link? to-
I will send this PDF to you.
So then we can go through. the
Yeah,
different-
and I think I have the link to that presentation that they had given us, so I'll send that as well if the link is still live and works.
so what would be, if everyone's okay and we decide to go with CJI Digital, then what would be?
Well, Eric and I will do the next steps to get a little bit more of a detailed plan, and I think when we get that, we'll be able to come back and share more information with you.
And
And then go from there, yeah, get more of the
the
details.
cost of it, so forth.
Yeah,
I don't want to complicate things, but are we allowed to, like, can the city just go with a single vendor on something, or do you have to put out
Yeah.
an RFP?
RFP.
Sorry.
No, and that's a good question, because
I mean, they
What do
may
you
be
think,
like
Laura?
single
This
municipal.
is, I don't think.
very specific
Because
service.
so number one is that there's a dollar amount, which doesn't pop to mind right now,
Mhm.
but we're not paying them anything as a
No,
city. We're
that's true.
essentially the middleman helping them deal with local business.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't know if there was.
no, and it's like, I
any
know when we did
cost
the front
agreement.
plaza, we had an RFP for that and different companies
Okay.
bid on it and they went
Sorry.
with, but I also know that. You know, like when I just want to use Hootsuite, I use Hootsuite, I don't need to
Mhm.
get a bunch of bids.
It's a very specific service that they're offering.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of vendors that offer all the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the
It's
maintenance.
the graphic design part that they're already doing.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I gave you Digital Strike. Somebody they just did the graphics,
yeah,
but they don't, I mean, they did the printing.
yeah, like to
Nova
have
Color,
somebody
Nova
do
Color just
the
does the printing.
sales, the design, the printing, and possibly the installation, like if we couldn't do it is really nice. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
totally.
like, yeah.
That's good.
So I'll get more detailed, specific info pertaining to Webster Groves, and I'll bring that back for the next meeting.
If they're, depending on how what information or. Maybe there needs to be a separate working group meeting to.
Yeah,
Flush it
get some
out,
dates
yeah.
from them.
So I'll share the PDF of the presentation when I get back to my desk, so that you guys can look at it, but it seemed when I sat in on this, I was like, this clears up a lot of work. A lot of work, so,
Mhm.
I think it'll be interesting to move forward and see how it would specifically work with Webster and what that would mean.
Mhm.
And then moving with Eric, because he works with the business districts to get all of the, like, that's essentially all of the banners. Once you get the business districts and the arts banners together, that's all of our banners, and just making sure that we're both on the same page.
Sorry, related, did anyone ever from this commission present a council as it pertains to city of the arts and all of that branding and things like that already is pre-existing? We just.
Yeah, we did, we had, just the typical like commission, here's what we're working on, and that was earlier in the year.
Yeah.
That didn't, I think the City of the Arts kind of push came after that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly something we can put together. Tonight on the agenda is the naming policy for parks and disc. And so the renaming the scope, that whole issue will come up tonight. So by the next meeting, we'll have more firm guidelines as to how.
Personally, I don't care what it is. I just like the idea of some type of brand that Webster takes on, whether it's City of the Arts, whether it's
Yeah.
home, I don't care. You
I
know,
just, I'm addicted.
That's a Shrewsbury,
Yeah.
right? And then
Right,
like.
the one that we used to have, it's a great place to, what was it?
Live, work, and play.
Work and
Yeah,
play.
already up there.
Yeah.
Some other
The
city.
Queen of the Suburbs was the
Yeah,
other one. of
that
the
one I.
past Webster. Like, I don't care what it is,
Yeah.
it's thinking about this type of communication strategy again, where it relates.
Yeah,
to-
like you even see them. Yeah,
It
like,
relates to this, it's like, who do you wanna be?
I love
and
some of
who do
these,
you wanna
where
be?
tomorrow begins.
Clayton,
Like, I don't-
Clayton in the eighties or nineties was top banana, you know, because it was a big
Oh my
apple
God.
in New York City.
Uh,
That's how they were trying to do.
Yeah. I'm
They had stickers they would give us.
just always addicted to some of these, because it's like, what does it mean? Like,
Well, home of the blooming festival.
Home of the
Yeah.
grapefruit, you know, I don't.
is
I
Mission,
mean-
Texas really the home of the grapefruit?
Northern,
They say so.
I thought that would be Florida.
Northern New Jersey is embroidery capital of the world.
Apparently garlic capitals over in Illinois, so.
Oh, well,
I love
whatever.
that. What is it? City of something Springs, get a spring in your step. I just love it. It's so, yeah.
I just, again,
The city of
I
respect.
bring it up
Yeah.
more so because
Mhm.
like thinking about communications and thinking about Webster as a cultural hub. But how do you say that if you don't say it?
Yeah.
You know, so. And, you know, the people could say, no, I don't like that. I want to be queen of the suburbs. That's fine too. But saying
Well,
nothing.
maybe this is a question that we ask. I mean, we are about to issue an RFQ for a comprehensive planning process.
Right.
Which includes a whole bunch of public engagements, and maybe this is something we ask along the way.
Yeah,
Uh,
how do you define? Do you want?
That's
to-
part, and that's what we're, part of what the comprehensive plan is designed to do, is who do we want to, who are we and who do we want to be in 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah,
I like it being a part of that, because then we
Yeah.
can get that engagement without having to do like a whole specific branding engagement campaign.
Right.
The county is finally doing a plan,
Right,
comprehensive plan,
Yes.
so there should be. Yeah, so be aware of that with any proposal that may come through.
yeah, and I've had talked with half a dozen mayors who've done comp plans within the last 4 or 5, 3
Yeah.
3 to 5 years to figure out. You know, who'd you use?
Yeah,
How'd you do public engagement? What is the app?
More so that the county is trying to, like, with what their plan is, they want it to be something that could be lifted up and taken by, like, pieces of it could be adopted by, like, it's more
Oh,
for communities that
interesting.
don't have resources at
Okay.
all. So that they could easily lift and take it and update
portions of
theirs,
it,
but
yeah.
it's something that should be. You know, like, I would think that any plan for the municipality, they should be aware that there's a county
Yeah,
plan going on that could have an impact.
yeah, we
That could
want to at
be-
least dovetail in many places, yeah.
has Webster already selected their vendor? Or,
No.
We haven't issued the RFQ yet,
okay, gotcha.
but that should be next month.
It will
Not
be,
this
oh,
month,
okay,
yeah.
oh, okay. And it's like a 1.5 year process once they start. Ish, one.
I don't know, how long would you say?
Oh, well, it's only Webster. I mean, so the countywide plan is gonna be more than a year.
Yeah, I
But
think
only
we,
Webster's gonna be,
the council was looking at it as a 1 year timeframe.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Cause if any, if we,
Well, I think about it holistically, that you undergo all the processes of engagement, but then you have to implement all the things that the report finds or what have you.
right, and
another half
that's
year to-
years to,
Right.
for implementation. right?
Ongoing for 10 years. and
but
2
the
years.
planning and then with a roadmap for implementation.
Right.
But the actual planning process would be, yeah, I think a year, and then the implementation process is dependent upon the municipality carrying it out.
Right, 2025-ish. Implementation.
So,
Sorry.
no, so,
It's off
so
topic.
after we talked about the plaques, there's 6 more for sculptures and the banners were in process. And then it says, the Catherine.
Which that
Michael
was
sculpture
Judy said
repairs.
she was looking into that and she couldn't be here today, so we can just.
So we
put that
don't
on
know
hold.
about that
Yeah, I
one.
don't have an update
Okay.
on that. And then
I'm trying to think which sculpture is that? Do you know?
it's, I
That's the,
believe.
is that the bunny rabbit? Oh, no,
No,
it's
she
the,
did, yeah, it's the one that's in the sculpture garden. It's the
In the
giant
gar- I
mosaic,
thought
yeah.
in the
that-
garden.
That bird
Bird.
one.
Yeah, but in the sculpture garden, the bird in
The
the.
bird
sculpture
in
garden.
the sculpture garden.
Reserve, I thought that was the only bird. Oh, no, I guess the bird is part of the jazz.
Yeah, the bird-
Right, there's
Yeah,
like 2,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is now.
Birds.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
the
it's,
sculpture garden, that's not what, that's what we know.
Yeah, it's the bird in the sculpture garden, so,
Okay, so we have to
and there
wait.
were some mosaics and things that were falling off of it, so.
not good, no.
Yeah, so she was gonna look into that, and that might be something we would have to pay for out of the
So,
arts fund.
okay, so we'll wait till next time, so. Again, back to the 6 more sculptures, what do we need to do?
So for that one, I will just compile a list. It's, I know it's only a cap cut up, but it's that one in the sculpture.
Oh,
garden.
yeah,
I will make a list of those and I will reach out to, and the company that's making the other ones. and see
okay,
what would
and
the
then we can
price
find
be
out what the
to
price
do
is.
matching ones.
Okay. And then. We have the banners,
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot to do.
So
sculpture
the
banner.
new plaques. Either have to be paid for out of the arts fund.
yeah,
Or January's budget submission, and so
We'd have to
submit them for
submit,
the next fiscal year.
so I guess we'll first find out what it's gonna cost us
Yeah.
and then go from there. And also with these plaques, now I'm trying to remember, like, since they're outdoors. Is there any, if we order them, do we know, well, they should bear weather for 12 years or
I didn't
anything
talk
like?
to them about that. I didn't get.
I was
yeah.
just thinking
I mean,
about that, if we're paying for it, we should find that out, because, you don't want to have a nice spike and then 3 years later.
Is this from N Graphics?
Mhm.
Are these plaques, metal?
Yeah, the.
Yeah,
bronze,
that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, then they're.
They should be good.
They're weatherproof and
Yeah,
resistant for.
They are
Probably
supposed to
50
be,
years. Yeah.
supposed to be with the
Yeah.
print and the
They
print.
they print them pretty, we use them. We
Do
use
you?
N Graphics, so. we-
I've used them for
familiar.
projects before too.
They specialize in outdoor signage, so this is their business.
So-
What's
should
the
be-
name of the company?
and
N
graphic.
Graphics.
Graphics?
It's
N
right across
Graphics.
the Red Lobster off of Hanley Road.
Yeah, I know
Where
where that
those-
is.
Yeah, so,
Like near Artmart?
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
Hey, I have a question.
What?
No, we've got
Oh,
the
I'm
Webster.
sorry.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
never not gonna be art.
Just a second,
we've got-
Janice.
Yeah, we've got the Webster Walk books outside City Hall. Is there a booklet about all the different sculptures we have around town so people can look for those?
there is not.
We were gonna do that quite some time ago. I
Okay.
think it was,
Patrick Murphy.
oh, no, it wasn't. She couldn't be here. I can't think of her name.
Judy or?
No,
Miriam Bradley.
no. She just let us know she had a meeting.
Oh, Beth Crowley.
That's right.
Yes,
She
okay.
was working on that
Okay,
and, so we should ask
yeah,
Beth.
cause I know I had the.
She was working on it because she wanted to do eventually on the website, something where you could press a button and see it. But we
Yeah,
never got very far.
well,
with
and
that,
that's
but
like, I
that
took
would
the
be,
info that she sent me, and I do have, put all of the info that was on there for each of the artworks on the website, so we do have this artist, if we had the year, that description, and so when we get those plaques, they will have the little frame, that's what I'm kind of going back and forth with the QR codes, the
that's
scan
what,
it
yeah,
and
that's
get
what Beth
a little
wanted to
bit more
do. She,
information,
was
yeah.
her- she thought, and she was sort of looking through that about how it might work website wise
Yeah.
and how it might work.
And I don't think we've done the work of like mapping out how it would look as a walk and where we would tell people to start and what their path would be and if it would be,
Yes, so we should.
look into that.
But also if we're getting the plaques and they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
be the QR codes, people, but it's not like a single location that lists
Exactly, it
everything.
lists everything in one
Um,
place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, we have talked with some flags. I don't know what the path is here, is that a lot of times we would put the plaque in whatever metal, like aluminum, outdoor aluminum. that the
Right.
graphics would plant. But then we've started doing it where there's like a little tiny yard sign that goes underneath it that allows you to change out the QR codes. QR codes are, it's a tricky business that you're
Yeah.
going into where you're integrating technology into metal and things like that.
yeah,
Is they could go
Oh.
outdated or something, or a link gets broken.
Oh,
and
if
now you got-
technology, you're saying if technology changes,
Well,
then
you
you have
just
to
got,
adapt.
you're imprinting a technological website code in metal.
yeah,
Now, if you are planning for this to change out every 5 to 10 years, you gotta think about it like technology, 5 to 10 years. So
mhm,
I'd recommend that you separate the QR code.
Oh, well,
That's-
that's an
Figure
idea
out there's
because
like
it
a
could,
little-
that can change it.
It just changes, and these little tiny signs that you stick in the ground, I mean, we did it with basically a historical marker.
That's a
where
good idea.
Yeah.
It's the historical marker is printed in a bronze handmade way, and that's in the ground. But then below that is like a little 2.5 foot sign about this big with a QR code, more
For more
information.
detail and
That's-
That can be removed.
And then you could go, I don't want to
Needs to
link
be.
to, Bob Castle now has this incredible documentary. I want to link to that on PBS. Now I want to, it allows you to switch it out.
That's a good idea.
And not be tied to, also a city's website will change. Every
Yeah.
website will change.
I
So,
mean, ours changed just even from me starting to now from webstergroves.org to webstergrovesmo.gov, so.
Yeah.
You
you
get
don't,
that a lot, where a parks brochure or something like that has the old links, it doesn't quite.
you
work.
don't want to spend a year getting it done and then putting it and be out of date in
In 2 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's just
Yeah,
I'd recommend.
so there is I think that's where the book is nice, because you can. Have the QR code in the book, you can do different things like that, where it can be a little bit more easily updated.
What is what are next steps? What's needed
So I think
on banners or?
I will send the material out for the banner, so people just wouldn't mind taking a look at that. And then I'll get the prices for phase 2 of signage. I'll call it phase 2. And then I think at the next meeting, we just would have to talk about that if we want to move forward with that and figure out,
Okay,
yeah. Figure it out, and then I'll see with the holiday in November. It's like November's already, like I can't
Yeah,
even
then-
believe. If Eric and I will be able to get that meeting with CGI before the next meeting.
Or-
Yeah. We'll see if we're able to squeeze that in.
Another thing I just wanted to say out loud, I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend the Ghastly event, but if you start to get that relationship with Rick and the City Museum and things like that, I think you could also probably pursue them to possibly loan you more artwork. So.
And that's, yeah.
Incite that artwork again.
That's an
Use it as a jumping point of we just celebrated you. You obviously have a ton of artwork, probably overflowing. They probably have stuff in basements and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. But we have all these sites that we've talked about,
Mhm.
and, it's just another way to promote Bob Castley from Webster Groves.
Well, there's always the wondering of why, if he did anything for this other park, which I don't really.
Yeah.
The cement.
The cement.
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
And whether or not that's a thing, if that's not a thing, then maybe they do have.
And I think there's also, as a part of the just Destination WG, the park bond issue, one of the things that we're asking if people think we should spend money on is a new park that would be like where the Deer Creek McDonald's was. So that could also be something where we could, if we're in it from the earliest talks, making sure that we're like, and we want a piece of art, a piece of public art in
That
that
would be
park,
a
which would be
lot
cool.
of fun. I mean, that would be a
The
lot.
first city museum sponsored park.
Yeah,
That
that
would
could
be
be,
a lot of fun. I mean, you mentioned earlier,
Whoa.
it's a good way to promote the city museum. The city museum doesn't need any more promotion,
No.
but I think
I think everybody always wants promotion.
yeah.
800,000 people a year is what they
Yeah.
receive, right? But
Well, site activation like that is anything that any municipality would want.
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah.
idea of using Bob Castley as the jumping point to promote Webster Groves.
Yeah.
Right, well,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking would be a way to, if we had the gallery do a
Mhm.
show, it just would be win-win on both sides. I mean, for Webster, would be get people into that
Yeah,
space, which I think still a lot of people just don't know that it
Yeah.
exists.
what I like about the new park location, I think would be cool, is it's kind of the same kind of conversations we had about Ivory Crockett Park and getting a splash pad, that it's like.
Mm.
Northwest, it's not. Kids who might live right by Ivory Crockett Park are likely not going to be able to walk all the way to the pool, like during the summer, so having something that's close to them, and I think the location of where that new park could be. It's
Where
shared with,
exactly?
it's like Deer Creek, you know where the Deer Creek Shopping Center is?
Yeah.
There used to be a McDonald's there and now. it's
Oh,
just
there
like-
was?
Yeah. And so.
Yeah, I can't, I'm trying
I
to.
had
I know.
my first grade
no.
birthday party at that McDonald's, so.
So it's an interesting site because originally it was half, the McDonald's was built. And half of it was in Maplewood and half of it was Webster Groves.
Yep.
Maplewood has, thanks to Great Rivers Greenway, ceded us that land, so we now have. Budget to do a park there, but we also have some money from Great Rivers Greenway.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's
Which is
kind of-
another amazing community partner, and it's an entrance to our city, which, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
And it's
that right
kind of-
now is really nothing.
It hits all of the
Yeah.
marks.
Yeah, it's
in
like
terms
on the
of-
bus route, it's
Yeah.
got, it draws like. It draws some people from Maplewood. There's like a slightly different kind of socioeconomic pull to that park than we would have at like Blackburn Park or some other area. So I think there's. A chance to introduce kids to some art and some things that they might not. Have been introduced to.
Do you think
I
that
think
part,
it's-
how far along in the process is that?
It's in terms, so Great Rivers Greenway did a survey
Right.
about what they wanted on the site.
Right.
What they being the
What the community.
community people around wanted on the site, which for a while, we talked about it as maybe being our first 100% ADA accessible playground. It's probably just not big enough for that.
Right, right.
And parking would be a problem for that, because you'd rely on the shopping center
Right.
parking, and yeah, maybe you could. But now it's more thinking, they're talking about. The survey came back with more kind of natural landscape,
Mhm.
which I think fits with the art part of this.
Yeah.
Right, and a gateway to the city.
Is there already a park there, right?
It's a,
Yes.
it is.
Okay, yeah, I
it's
know
just
there-
terrible,
there's a
it's like
park
a
that's a-
concrete pad.
Oh.
It's a
Okay.
concrete
Yeah.
pad.
But it's,
an
but
overgrown-
Rocketship Park is just
On the
down
other
creek
side of
from
that
there.
Okay,
So
yeah,
this is on the Big Bend side.
okay.
It's like as you curve around.
Do you remember where Family Video used to be? Now it's
Yeah.
like a boxing
Yeah.
gym, like
Oh.
right across from that.
It's like.
Oh, across
Yeah,
from that.
across from the entrance to that.
Right now, you drive by it and you not notice it
Yeah.
except. for the-
Yeah, obviously, I am like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know exactly the area that you're talking about, but I'm not sure what parcel of land you're talking about
Yeah.
around there.
It's like
Yeah.
a triangle.
Is it along the trail that goes across?
Yes.
the
Yes.
park?
So that's part of the reason that Great Rivers
Thank you.
Greenway
Yeah.
wanted to do it, because in the grand design, this was. Connecting all the trails that would go all the way through up to Kirkwood to the River to Pear
Mhm,
Trail.
mhm.
Now, I'm not sure Maplewood's fully on board with how that's gonna go through Maplewood, but it gets us a lot of the way there, and it would get us at least to the boundaries of Webster.
I'm
large a
excited about
parcel
that
is that?
possibility.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
how large a parcel is that?
It's not very large, I would say,
It's narrow, it seems.
Yeah, I would say it's not much bigger maybe than City Hall parking lot.
Yeah, probably, because it was like a McDonald's in a parking lot is essentially what it was, so. But like when you look at places like Turtle Park, like that's kind of the
Yeah.
same, it's
Yeah,
like.
small footprint.
Small footprint next to traffic, not a lot of parking, but it's
Next to
still,
highway.
they do something really cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, people love it.
I think
So-
that's actually the sell, is that it's similar to Turtle Park, but it's in Webster.
yeah, Webster
Bob
practically
Cassidy's
Maplewood, yeah.
hometown, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and it's that really weird, like I live in that part of town, but I'm like. Webster, but 1 block this way, you're in Maplewood, 1 block that way, you're in Shrewsbury,
Right.
2 blocks that way, you're in the city, you know, it's just kind of a strange part of town, but you draw. Different
Yeah.
crowds.
Yeah, and,
It's-
and one thing that came back from our Destination Webster Grove survey is that one of. Multiple people, I couldn't tell you how many, talked about us not having sort of a naturescape kind of
Sure.
playground,
Mhm.
which is exactly what. You could build with Turtle Park and, you know, if that's sort of the idea that you're talking about. I
Yeah.
know Great Rivers Greenway wants to make sure that there's a prominent way for the bike path to go through there, which also fits.
Sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully a very, very small amount of parking. I know they want a little bit of parking for people to access the trail.
Whose radar do you have to get it into, to get that idea into somebody, into a committee or commission's head about the possibility of starting that conversation?
So I would say that somebody maybe from this group
Yeah.
should meet with Scott,
Mhm.
the Director of Parks and
I was
Recreation.
thinking.
Would this
you put
commission
up
be
with-
okay with me meeting with Scott? Because
Right, very-
I'm
very
excited
cool.
about that idea because I think it hits so many different things.
No, I think that
I
would
think
be,
it sounds,
yeah,
be good for you to, if you're willing to do it, seems
Yeah.
like that would be good.
Scott, the director of.
Scott
Parks.
Davis,
Yeah.
yeah, Parks and
Mhm.
Recreation, I
And
can
see-
send you.
And we're gonna talk about the Destination Webster Grove survey, and I have to report on this commission meeting tonight, so I will also just mention this conversation. So at least council has heard about this
Mhm.
conversation.
Okay.
As well.
Yeah.
And Scott will be there, so he'll hear it from me
And
too.
I'm still trying to
there's a lot
figure
of
where this is, but I guess if I
cool-
drive over there, I'm still.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
bizarre
really-
location,
yeah,
but it has so much
Can't think-
potential.
Yeah.
It's just cut off from everything,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's
But it's not-
also totally
But it's right
connected
next to a
everything.
park.
Yeah.
But
it's right next to the strip
the
mall with the
DMV.
DMV.
All right.
It's next to the strip mall.
Just do,
but-
let's just do, well, no, I'm not gonna do Google Maps, because we'll never get out of the meeting that way.
You know, we can-
Everyone can go look it up.
okay, yeah, we'll do that, look. it up
I
on
really, it's a really great, it's a simple idea, but it's just dovetailing.
But
on
it's
something
next
we just
to
had,
that
So it's great.
Strip mall, no,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
basically.
you know that
in-
like home theater,
So that's what's so interesting is that how. do you
No,
see
I don't know
parking?
where the home theater is.
the home
I'm-
theater.
Off of
sales-
it.
And I'm
It's
really,
off of
really that
Bend,
parking
that
lot is
drive.
just filled with empty. That is,
Correct.
there's not, that parking lot's never filled.
It's.
The one with the big, with all the,
Yeah.
part of the stores are not
It's
there.
where the
Okay, here you go.
DMV is.
Oh, our favorite, that is totally not my
So
favorite, but
it
anyway,
is,
yes.
it is between, it's bordered by Oxford, Deer Creek, and then that is Big Bend, so it's just a little triangle there.
Okay.
And you really can't use all that space because a fair amount, a lot of that goes, is a steep hill down into Deer Creek.
I think but even with the whole Destination WG, I think there's some cool opportunities for art, like there's
Yeah.
that park, and then there's. One of the ideas was the amphitheater kind of thing,
Yeah.
which. Be a memorial park, so I think there's some potential for some cool projects coming up, but I think you're exactly right with the city museum approaching them and finding out, like, even if we wanted to pursue, I know that. Before I came onto the commission, they had talked about other places we could put public art in Webster Groves, and there were some plans for that, like along. Rock Hill and some of
Yeah.
those, and I know. Even when I worked at Webster Lawmeyer Sculpture Park, sometimes would be like. Here, can you put this on your campus? Because otherwise it would be in storage for us, and so they would have like a 10-year
Mhm.
deal, you know, so I
Yeah.
think that Lawmeyer and City Museum, I think there's the potential for these places that have the artwork. And that
So
you
how
just-
did we get the upside down girl or?
Backflip.
Backflip? I don't know,
I have
that
no
was
idea.
before my time there, so. I'm
I
not
went to college
sure.
and when I moved back, it was here,
There.
and I don't
Yeah.
have any idea what happened.
I was in college when the apple suddenly appeared, I don't know, I don't know, I'm not sure how they.
And I mean, I do think that's how sculptures, I mean, I think it's in people's collection and it's in warehouses and they don't know what to do with it. That's how the zoo got that giant
Yeah,
metal sculpture of all the animals, is that was
Really?
actually supposed to,
What?
it was actually supposed to go to for another project. And it didn't go
It
and
completely looks like it's commissioned.
Yeah.
no, that was not commissioned at all.
it's like some
That's amazing.
weird rich person who loves
Yeah.
animals was like, I don't want this.
There
This
are
is
my
my
front gate.
pool.
Yeah, and so the story is that,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Well, and I think there's even like, you know, when you reach out.
I
to
mean,
some of
that's what
these
somebody
places-
told me. I mean, they
Yeah.
just said it was in somebody's warehouse. And it was supposed to be, that's whatever.
Like Eric even pointed, like right when you walk into City Hall, where we kind of have the stack of the senior newsletters and the Webster Kirkwood Times, like on that little flat area. Like that could be like a sculpture that's not allowed to go into, you know, like
Yeah,
we could have an indoor sculpture there. Like there's definitely, I think, places around the city.
It would be cool if with the broader plan, if there could be, like, this is not a site that can be developed for commercial purposes, but this is a site that could be activated in
Mhm.
some way, and then have the art commission do a tour of those identified sites
Yeah.
to be like, to like know that those are the sites that with our connections and information and relationships that we could, yeah, just
that's
sort of
right.
put those front and center for bringing in new opportunities for art.
The person that was previously on the commission had developed more or less a public art, not a master plan, but a plan that identified gateways, boulevards, et
Yeah, I
cetera.
have to look for that and see if I can locate that.
And I still have the PDF, and it's just visually, it shows you all these identified sites in lieu of the city not having necessarily a public art master plan. So it's easy enough to kind of review that and figure out what. It's identifying public sites of visual prominence, you know?
Okay.
Okay.
We've got, sounds like some other cool things we can work
We can
on.
do.
If the banners are off our plate, then there's cooler things we might be able
And
to.
they're
put on our
never
plate.
completely.
Completely,
out.
definitely.
But I think the leg work, the horrible detail part of like the interaction with all the different people that we have to do, it's just the look of it. I think the number one thing is we zero in on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yep. So as we draw to a close, I wanted to ask, I know December is a crazy time for everyone. Did we want to meet December 5th? Or do we want to take December off and meet again in January?
What do you think?
I'm available if we have business. But if we don't think that we're gonna have,
Like if I don't have an
Business.
update on the banners and things like that, yeah,
Yeah, it all depend, yeah, even so, I think everybody could still Zoom if
okay,
that
On
was,
December?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
okay.
I can't look into my crystal ball.
Okay, well then
if
we'll,
business, let's.
if
yeah,
business,
let's
December 5th.
Okay,
I do have a couple council updates, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah.
Jenny mentioned the naming policy, so we'll talk about that in our work session. I think Parks and Rec did a great job and looked at a whole bunch of other city policies. One thing, since I wanted to give this commission a heads up about, one of the components of the policy is that any person who has worked for or been elected to an office in the city, nothing would be named for them until after a 4-year period, sort of a cooling off period. That affects the immediacy of anything that has to do with naming the sculpture park after Jerry. I didn't want that to be a surprise to anyone.
mhm, makes sense.
The second thing is we are gonna start the Charter Review Advisory Board recommendations, so we'll look at 7 of them tonight. Most of them are technical tonight. But we will be having some pretty serious discussions about issues for representation.
Is that
Compensation.
in where are you gonna be doing that? Here?
This is in the council chambers. And then we're also talking about flood buyouts. FEMA approved us for 4 additional
Yeah.
flood buyouts, and I honestly have no idea how this is gonna go tonight. Usually I have a pretty good sense, but I don't know. So we'll have that discussion, find out if there's more information. So if you have strong feelings about flood buyouts one way or the other, let me know, send a note to council, whatever you might like to
Are
do.
we getting federal money for that?
Yeah, so we have approved 2 buyouts with the feds paying 90%, us paying 10%. These 4 would be a 75% federal, 10% local. I mean, sorry, 25%
So we
local.
tear down the house and it just becomes
Green space.
green space.
Yes, yeah. And then the last thing is we're doing, and this is the first one I've had, since I've been on council, is we are doing our first consideration of a historic, landmark, which would be a house at Marion Court, which nobody knows where Marion Court is because there's only one house on it and it's adjacent to the Kirkham, industrial park. But it was the demonstration house for what would have been a middle-class Black development in the 1950s, that was,
Mhm.
otherwise stopped, and there's a whole long history to it. We don't have time for the history, but tune in tonight if you're interested in the history of that, because it's an interesting story. It's a story about what Webster could have been in terms of its racial composition. But it's also, I think, a story of how it's good for us to recognize our history, and the woman who owns the house is bringing it to us. So that's good.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Totally.
There was some cool stories about that on Fox too.
Yeah.
So if you
Okay.
Google it, but yeah.
So should we motion to adjourn for today?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Just somebody say
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't do it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'm not a voting
Thank you.
member.
Right.
Thank you next time.
Bye, Janice.
Have a good
Enjoy your
day.
trip.
Yeah, bye.